Okay, so from the title of the video you can tell that this is going to be a Unity 5 tutorial. Going forward, all my tutorials will be Unity 5 unless explicitly requested in 4. Turns out that you can have a build of 4 and 5 on the same machine. So if you're working on a project in 4, you don't want to convert to 5 and you need some assistance, just let me know and I can fire up 4.6 and we can go from there. So this is going to be a tutorial about knocking over structures, knocking over objects with projectiles. You can think of some mobile games that are like that. I don't want to use any names because unfortunately we are in an environment where people and companies are suing over this usage of common words. We have one company suing over the word Fallout, have another company suing over the word Saga. These companies don't want anyone to use those words other than them because they argue that it would cause confusion. So that's a separate discussion. I'm not going to get into it. So if it seems like I'm obviously avoiding certain words, there's a reason for it. So we're going to be knocking over structures. So as you can see, really isn't anything done yet. It's an empty scene. These are just 4 images that I dragged and dropped from an external folder. This is a material which we're going to get into. The way it's created is you right click, you choose create, you choose physics 2D material, and then when you click on it, it will appear and you can name it. This is an empty script that I have done nothing with. You just right click, choose create, and you choose C# script, and then you name it. So let's start putting some images into the scene. So first, this plank is going to be the ground. So let's scale it out a little bit, or a lot rather. Just move it down to the bottom. Now because this is going to be immovable, but we want collisions to occur, we will add physics 2D and we will add box collider 2D, but we will not add a rigid body. So we don't want gravity to hit it, but we don't want gravity applied to it, I should say, but we do want collisions to occur. So to make it immovable, you simply don't add a rigid body. Next, let's take this plank and we'll just position it over to the side. This will get physics 2D. This will get a rigid body because we do want gravity applied to it. We'll leave these all the same for now. We might tweak them as we work on the project. Add component, physics 2D, box collider. Again, make no changes for now. We'll copy that, we'll paste it, slide it over a bit, copy it again, paste it again. This one I'm going to slide up and then rotate on the Z-axis by 90 degrees. And so now you have a rudimentary structure. What you're going to do now is you highlight. Actually, let's create another script. So create C#, and we'll call this plank control. So now you highlight all 3 and take plank control and drag and drop it onto them. A couple things we're going to do with that. This is basically going to give some instructions as to what happens when a collision occurs. Now, because you've added rigid bodies, there's default gravity, default physics already being used. We will have to modify it, but at least the basics are there. The transference of force from one object to another based on a collision, but we need to tweak what happens. So let's go into plank control. And in the top here, we're going to create a variable, actually 2. So public sprite, and it's going to be, we'll call this undamaged. And then we'll create another one. Public sprite damaged. We'll save that. And we'll go back even though we're not done yet. The reason for it is I want you to see what happens. So if you go to the planks now, they have these two sprite variables. Now the first one's going to sound redundant, seem redundant, undamaged, because it's the same as the default sprite. If you don't change the sprite, this is fine. You don't have to make a variable. But if you find that you have to go back and forth between them, or you need to check to see which one is currently being displayed, then unfortunately you need to create a sprite or a variable for that default sprite. Like maybe if something is damaged but it can be repaired, you're going to want to go from this to this. I don't know of any way to go from this back to this default one. If you know a way, fine. Feel free to just put a comment in the comment section. But to the best of my knowledge, I don't know of any way to go back to this default one. So it's easy enough just to create a variable for it again. Really shouldn't impact performance. And in fact, it's probably easier to track because now you've given it a name. Okay, so the other thing that we want to do is, so now we say that it has these objects, these plank objects have two different sprites they can display: the damaged, the undamaged, and the damaged. We never really zoomed in on it, but if we double click on this, you can see it has cracks in it, so that's why it's called damaged. Usually in games like this, if there's an impact, if the impact is great enough, then the image changes and it gets cracks in it, and then if there's another impact, then it tends to get destroyed. So what we're going to do is outside of start, outside of update, we're going to add another coroutine. So void on collision enter 2D collision 2D other. Now, just so you know, this is a predefined coroutine, so you have to type this out exactly right for this to work. Capital O, capital C, capital E, capital D, collision 2D other. Has to be written out like that or else it will not work. You'll think that you're just inventing your own coroutine and won't know what to do with it. So what we're going to do is we want to check. So this is checking for an impact. Now let's check for what's impacting it. So if other dot game object, oops, sorry about that, dot name equals, and we haven't put it in there yet, but it's going to be called red ball. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put in more brackets since we're going to do multiple lines in here. First of all, let's add another variable, public int. We'll call this total hits. So we want to keep track of how many times it's been hit. So total hits plus equals 1. So that means whatever total hits is equal to, increase it by 1. And we're going to do get component sprite renderer sprite, and we're going to set it to this variable up here, damaged. So we now want to check to see if total hits exceeds a certain amount. So let's say 3. So if total hits is greater than or equal to 3, destroy game object. Now that just does an instant destruction, so visually that's not really great. There's no debris. That is going to be done later. Again, this is an iterative process, so we don't want to throw everything at you at once. So that really does it, unless I've missed something for the plank control. So quick summary, or quick recap. This establishes that there are 2 sprite images that can be displayed. This tracks how many times it's been hit. Nothing in start, nothing in update, at least not yet. On collision, enter 2D. If the game object that is hitting it is named red ball, increase the amount of times it's been hit, well, increase the variable by that name, and change the sprite to damaged. If total hits exceeds or is equal to 3, then just destroy the object. Both of these only are checked if a collision has occurred. Okay, so that's saved. Now let's take the red ball, put it into the image, into the scene rather. It gets a circle collider, and because of the blank space it's a little bit too big, so we just need to trim that a little. Your game, you can decide how sensitive and how exact you want it to be, how forgiving you want it to be. So it has a circle collider 2D, and it needs a rigid body because we want gravity to affect it. So we now take that ball control that we created at the beginning, drag and drop it, and now we open it up. And oh, my apologies, there actually was one line in it already, sorry about that. So no big deal, get component rigid body 2D velocity. So what this does is it says, okay, get the rigid body component, get the velocity attribute, and here's what we're going to change it to. And often I do vector 3s, and I probably shouldn't, so I'm trying to be a little bit neater. It's 2-dimensional, so vector 2 only. So all this does is at the start, it gives it a horizontal, so left, a positive horizontal, so left to right, and a little bit of a vertical boost, so it goes up in the air, at least briefly. In fact, we probably could boost that up a little bit. And now, because objects have rigid bodies, collisions will occur, stuff will get knocked around, but it's not going to be quite right, but you'll see. So let's go ahead and give this a try. You notice a few things. It did not bounce. I'll get into that in a minute. And it did hit this, and it did push it. So let's give this a little bit more oomph. We probably can trim that off a little bit. Okay, better. Things got knocked over. Things are sliding around. Things got damaged. So if you noticed, it did not bounce. And this is a pet peeve I have with Unity. I don't know if they did this for logical reasons or if they did this for technological reasons, but ultimately, even though the rigid body applies gravity, okay, it does not apply bounce. So to me, a bounce is part of the gravity calculation. But for whatever reason, you have to create a material, specifically as I demonstrated. You do create and you do physics 2D material. That very explicitly you have to give it a physics material. And within that material, you can now do bounces. So, and as you can see, that's all there is to it. So to me, I I don't want to beleaguer the issue, but to me, if I were king, I'd have put the bounce right into the rigid body. I don't know if they're thinking, okay, well, depending what kind of material you apply, like, is this going to be glass? Is this going to be rubber? Is it going to be gelatinous? Maybe they're thinking along those lines, but from a technological point of view, I would just have put it all in the rigid body. So what we do is we click on red ball, we take that bounce mat, and we put it here for the circle collider. And there. I really didn't show the bounce good, so I really want that bounce to demonstrate. And also let's check what the bounce was set at. Oh, sorry, bounce was set at 0. My apologies. Let's put it on 1. And I've changed the bounce mat, but since it's already been applied to the red ball, I don't have to like drag and drop it again. There we go. Excellent. Alright, so let's put that back to where it was. Bounce C, now it's bouncing. So a little bit too bouncy. So don't want to beleaguer the issue. This is purely balance. Maybe something's taken place on space or on the moon, and so you might want a lot of bounciness. It's just whatever looks and feels right to you. So there, not nearly as much bounce. And you can also add friction because it probably rolls too much. So friction is right here. So let's double that. Now let's do one last thing and then we'll wrap up this video because I don't want to put too much into one video. Let's get rid of the horizontal. And actually let's get rid of the vertical as well. Save this. And what we'll do is put this right on over this so it drops down and repeatedly hits it, and let's see if our brake works. There we go. So I think that's going to wrap up this first video. So you've gotten your environment in place as far as being able to have gravity and physics apply to objects. Objects can change their appearance when they get struck, and they can be destroyed when they get struck repeatedly. We've modified the physics so as that the ball now has bounce to it. And that should do it for this one. Like I said, I don't want to do too much in one video.